Good evening. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Andrea Pirro. I'm the director of the Visiting Artists Program at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And it's my pleasure to welcome you to SAIC's Distinguished Alumni Lecture Series featuring artist Edra Soto. The Distinguished Alumni Lecture Series was established in 2006 in partnership with SAIC Alumni Engagement. It has featured a talented alumni such as Dred Scott, Rebecca Morris, Wu Sang, William Cordova, Jeffrey Gibson, Emil Ferris, and Sanford Biggers, among many others. For those of you that might be joining us for the first time, SAIC's Visiting Artists Program hosts a series of public talks by internationally recognized artists, designers, and scholars to expand our thinking about contemporary art and design. These programs serve as a critical resource for the SAIC community as well as our extended audience. We are so honored to welcome Edra Soto back to SAIC, and I would like to thank her for sharing her incredible work with our community. Before we get started, please silence your cell phones and note that video recording of the lecture is not permitted. At the end of the talk, we will have time to take 3 or 4 questions from the audience before the program concludes by 7:30. Please raise your hand if you have a question and our staff will come to you with a microphone. If you're posing a question, if you could please keep it concise so we can get to as many questions as possible. So introducing Edra Soto this evening is Maria Gaspar, Associate Professor in SAIC's Department of Contemporary Practices. Please welcome Maria to the podium.
Good evening. Hola. So it is with tremendous honor and joy that I introduce an outstanding artist and a dear friend, mi amiga muy querida, Edra Soto. Edra Soto is a Puerto Rican artist, educator, and co-director of outdoor project space, The Franklin. Edra Soto instigates meaningful, relevant, and often difficult conversations surrounding socioeconomic and cultural oppression, erasure of history, and loss of cultural knowledge. Having grown up in Puerto Rico and now immersed in her Chicago community, Edra raises questions through her work about constructed social orders, diasporic identity, and the legacy of colonialism. Edra and I have been friends for over 2 decades. We've exchanged, I knew this would happen. Oh, okay. So we've exchanged much throughout this time, the nitty-gritty of art and life, y mucho más. But most meaningfully, we've shared many delightful moments cutting a rug on the dance floor. I see some of you have joined us in that. Or sharing our love for our mothers. If you know Edra, you know that she rolls deep with community in Chicago and beyond. Her art practice isn't much different. Edra develops immersive installations that bring people together over a game of dominoes with her work Domino Domino, for example, created with her partner and frequent collaborator, Dan Sullivan. Hey, Dan. Or in Graft, installed most recently at the Whitney Museum of Art in New York, she invites you to bear witness to a Puerto Rico ravaged by huracanes Irma and Maria. Photographs of broken trees and cloudy skies are revealed when the viewer brings their bodies close to the slides. In an interview with New City Art after visiting her home in Puerto Rico in 2017, she says, "I had never seen Puerto Rico the way it looked then. I had never seen the landscape in that way. I felt in my bones that I was part of something historical." Though her recent work focuses on many expansive ways to think about architecture, Puerto Rican identity, language, and cultural history, her performances and sound projects also evoke joy, humor, and resilience. Perhaps one of Edra's earlier, more obscure works is Excess of Joy, where she created a double-sided LP with recordings of her laughing, and you know Edra's laugh, right? While watching a comedy special. She recorded her laughter and then reformatted the recordings to create a melody. Or you may have enjoyed a slice of pineapple cake for her ongoing work, The Wedding Cake Project, where Edra bakes a cake from her mother's recipe for special events or a friend's wedding reception, or a stranger's wedding reception, I believe. Edra Soto has presented recent solo exhibitions at Morgan Lehman Gallery, New York, Institute of Contemporary Art, San Diego, Headland Center for the Arts, Sausalito, California, amongst many others. Her work has been featured in notable recent group exhibitions, including Widening the Lens, Photography, Ecology, and the Contemporary Landscape at Carnegie Museum of Art, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Entre Horizontes at Museum of Contemporary Art, Chicago, curated by Carla, right here. No Existe un Mundo Post-Huracán at Whitney Museum of American Art in New York, and Estamos Bien, La Trienal 2021 at El Museo del Barrio, New York. Edra has been awarded the Joyce Award, 3 Arts Next Level Award, Illinois Arts Council Fellowship, Joan Mitchell Foundation Painters and Sculptors Grant, BEMI Center's Ree Kaneko Award, U.S. Latinx Art Forum Fellowship, and many others. Soto has received numerous public commissions, including the Public Art Fund at the Doris C. Friedman Plaza in Central Park, New York, Noor Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, Now and There, Central Wharf Park, Boston, Massachusetts, the Chicago Architecture Biennial, Terminal 5 at O'Hare International Airport, the Chicago Botanic Garden, and Millennium Park here in Chicago. Her work is in the collection of institutions, including the Whitney Museum of American Art, New York, Perez Art Museum, Miami, Museo de Arte de Puerto Rico, Museo de Arte Contemporáneo de Puerto Rico, and Museum of Contemporary Art, Chicago. In closing, when preparing this introduction, I immensely enjoyed reflecting on Edra's work over the years as her friend and as her fellow artist. I also came across an interview in which she discussed her journey as a young art student, which I think is very relevant to in art school. And she said, "Art has given me direction, a sense of self, the confidence to engage and work with others, and a place to respond to the problems of the world. I was most struck by how her art and her life are indistinguishable, both offering vitality to her work and community." Menominee author, educator, organizer, and photographer Kelly Hayes says, "Fascism thrives on our sense that it is unstoppable, all-consuming, and inevitable. To oppose it and to remind ourselves that we are capable of defeating it, we must exercise our imaginations." Edra's subtle and bold ways of making meaning in this world are exercises in freedom, and I'm so thrilled to have her with us today. Please give a warm welcome to artist Edra Soto.
Hola. Hi. I'm trying to get comfortable. Thank you, Maria, for that incredible introduction. I will treasure that forever. How beautiful you are. Thank you. Okay. This moment is much bigger than me right now, so it's taking me a little time to settle here. This video that you're looking at it was made by CESPO for the Lit Luz Festival, and I will talk about archives. Mi archivo. My archive is my memory. It was private until it became public. The photos that I take with my phone help me track people, places, and their life events, among many other things. This is the source that became my resource. Eventually, my archive became a part of my visual world. As a visual artist, working in the intersection of architectural interventions, literary components, collaborations, and adjacency, I have brought my passion for innovative forms of engagement to my role as an artist, an educator, and co-director of the project Space de Franklin. During my early upbringing in Puerto Rico, my parents' pursuits and hobbies took place at my family home, from commercial ceramics, stained glass, crafts, and baking. Today, I correlate their creative pursuits to my approaches to material and intention. Material and intention become complementary. While anything has the potential to become material, an indispensable building block to each work, it will not be enough without the intention that is aiming to embody. This is a photo of the church affiliated to the elementary and high school I attended in Puerto Rico. Years of reflecting on my relationship to this church helped me understand why I have been drawn to installation work and eventually to architectural work that is generally complemented by artistic and community activations. I think about the physical attributes of the space and the activations that occur in that space and how they relate to my artistic practice. The objects, the artifacts, the props, they all have a purpose. The dogma, the rituals, the music, the congregation are no different from the performances, the activation, the community collaborations that take place in my work. But this was my first colonial impact. As a child, I had no concept of a dogma and the indoctrination I was going through, what I was repeating, singing, or believing. I learned that I had a natural disposition for embracing spirituality, but I don't believe in Catholicism anymore. I believe in dogs because they taught me about love. I believe that being alive is a miracle. I believe that it is not possible to experience love without experiencing pain because they go hand in hand. I believe in the care and dignity we all deserve. I believe in humanity. Thank you. I believe in dogs. You can take that with you. I'm not really good at driving, and yeah, so I'm doing my best here. I've always been invested in experiencing ideas that have been ignited by my relationships, personal relationships, relationships with the places I live or communities I have been a part of, and geographic relationships, which have helped me express my story of migration, which is the story that have monopolized my life, my imagination, learning, just constantly being confronted with information that I have to acknowledge in order to provide a more rounded experience. And finally, the love and the pain, the heartbreak of loving what I have lost, loving from a long distance, and being on the trenches of a va-et-vient, of a coming and going or a back and forth, the constant zooming in and out, the unique experience of constantly being confronted with what I thought I knew, what has been representing my home, has provided a deeper appreciation for the intimate experiences I can express in the comfort of my studio so many times, as much as the greater, the monumental ideas that are the great scale, ideas that have come to life with the help of others. Working on bigger scale has taught me so much about the public art, my public art practice, and it has been a magnificent honor. Maybe that's an understatement. It is really an incredible experience. This is the work that comes to life with the help of dozens, if not hundreds, of experts in their respective fields, from draftsmen to contractors to curators, institutions, project managers, collaborators, and communities. From my conceptual idea to the architectural interpretations that are filtered through the inevitable trace of compromises that test the ability to come through the surface as a genuine expression. And I talk about relationships because I'm thinking about graft, and I'm thinking about the Franklin, which is a space that I created in collaboration with my husband, Dan Sullivan. And it really exemplified my relationship with the Chicago artist-run community. And we really were so devoted about the art and living with art and collecting art. And the artist-run community became that place where we were able to exchange and support. And the Franklin allowed us to open our home and experience those relationships through the collection. And I brought some examples of past work, like the incredible Maria Gaspar. One of my favorites, Chris Smith. This work was responding to the environment and Garfield Park community. Joseph and Sarah Belknap, Liz Bageson and Kirsten Linars, lots of SAIC community here, and the fabulous love work. So I am going to attempt to explain why I do the work I do through these images. I'm going to talk about colonial architecture as an emblem. This is a garita, or a bartizan, a turret, is an overhanging structure projecting from a wall. The turret is a representation of military colonial architecture. El Castillo San Felipe del Morro was built between the 16th and the 18th century in the north of San Juan. Puerto Rico ceased being a Spanish colony and became a U.S. territory in 1898, following the Spanish-American War and the signing of the Treaty of Paris. Not only the turret is a reminder of a war, but of a history of oppression that ceased 130 years ago. As my travels from Chicago to Puerto Rico increased in the last decade, I kept questioning the meaning of this logo, symbol, or emblem in relation to the cultural identity. If the socioeconomic group that prevails throughout the archipelago is the working class, then this emblem is not doing its job, it's not accurate. And at this point in history, it reads as a manipulation, but also as something that is not being seen for what it truly is. I believe it is being overlooked. I ask myself, what could become an accurate representation of Puerto Rico's working class and a relatable reflection of working class communities? Experientially, there's two very different things I represent. I represent them different in my work. I represent them as territory. The island or the archipelago versus US mainland. Perhaps it's a reverse form of colonialism or colonizing, or incorporating myself in an already existing space to inhabit it. The feelings of belonging or not belonging that have been widely examined, widely expressed by artists of all kinds. And I'm just glad I can express these feelings the way that I do and be a part of a much bigger conversation, a national conversation, a global conversation. So nobody's gonna blame me for not taking pictures. I will continue this. All these are pictures that I have been taking, collecting throughout the years, from pictures from the television, at the airport, propaganda, newspapers, the internet. My meditations regarding domestic architecture lead me to think about the physical qualities of this architecture, as well as the metaphoric and symbolic qualities attached to it. Something that delineates boundaries or imprisonment, as well as the protection that it promises. How the decorative motifs that complement this architecture are culturally visualized. As a ventilation device, as a decorative backdrop, daily overlooked, a utilitarian device that is not meant to be contemplated. Its presence and its meaning is not meant to be acknowledged. I didn't question its aesthetic qualities or if they had any cultural relevance until my adulthood, and as an artistic meditation. Graft or grafting, which is the title that the greater umbrella of this project that I have been working on in the last decade. Grafting is a botanical practice where two plants are permanently joined. Medically, it refers to skin transplant. This magical word truly encompasses the intentions of my work to express the object of migration. The term object of migration refers to migration or migrants who are marginalized, invisible, and threat as objects or treated as objects of fear and anxiety. The term abject means to throw away or cast away, and is used to describe people in their lowest social status. Well, what impulsed my creation for architectural interventions by transplanting residential architecture of working-class Puerto Ricans to inhabit places in the U.S. mainland. How I establish physical presence, which in this context means to advocate for working-class communities, not only Puerto Rico's working class, but anyone that identifies themselves with that socioeconomic group. This is the first iteration of graph that I did at Terrain Projects in Oak Park. In 2013. You can see it better than me. Well, I was, of course, after coming to the Art Institute, being away for over a decade, and then being forced to reflect on what is important for me to say, or what do I want to say, and how should I say it. this school gave me some tools to do this, but nothing really comes natural to me. I feel that I help myself with my imagination and support, working with others. Well, I found this information that kept me connected to this project. In his book, La Ciudad de los Balcones, of the City of Balconies, author Edwin R. Quiles Rodriguez notes how the use of rejas, of raw iron screens, complement the layout of working class residences made of concrete. In an essay about my ongoing architectural interventions, Professor Albert Stabler highlights these residencies were adapted from the Yoruba dwellings of African slaves, which were developed in Haiti and then migrated abroad with hacienda owners after the slaves revolted. Professor Jorge Ortiz Colom, his monograph, The African Influence in the Design-Built Edification of Puerto Rico, states that the criollo architecture, which incorporates quiebrasoles and rejas, or breeze blocks and raw iron fences, originated from sub-Saharan Africa through the population brought to Puerto Rico as slaves to work plantations during the rise of colonization. He argues that the influence is largely overlooked by historians due to the impression that Africans could not transplant their ancestral ways of life under the inhumane conditions of their transfer and the lack of freedom in their new home. It was previously thought that this decorative architecture was an amalgamation of European features that had undergone a tropicalization through the Western lens due to the growing commercial sugar trade between the US and Puerto Rico in the late 19th century. The style of criolla architecture was rampantly appropriated in the southern US, and according to Ortiz Colom, sometimes even purchased outright as entire homes and relocated in the US. So after finding this information, I realized that this, in fact, is something that has been explored, but not in the contemporary context or in an architectural form. And so it was an opportunity to bring back to light this information, and through literary components grow that archive of contributions by experts in their respective fields, like architects, journalists, poets. And this is a version of, I mean, I have here work of over a decade, and it feels really old to me. and also new. I'm not sure how to explain it because graft and all the iterations of graft evolve with the way that life evolves. And it kind of feels like the forms that it takes, the shape that it takes, and how is exploring sites and complementing places. It's growing with me, it's traveling with me. This is a detail of manual graft. A manual graft was a form of explore a material. We use adhesive in different ways. The previous work that you saw, it was more collective form of creating the pattern, using drafting materials, and making visible the labor of building something together. This iteration of graft was part of a two-person exhibition at the Chicago Cultural Center, and it was the first significant installation inside a gallery space that allowed me to incorporate my archive. I never really intended to use my archive, my photographs, and make them a part of my work. So I think that happened for me in order to solve a problem, which was what happens behind the fence, and how can I expand the narrative of these decorative patterns? How can I just instigate more time from the audience that are visiting this structure? And this structure also was the first time that I incorporated images of Hurricane Maria. And it just have a variety of images, but lots of landscape. During the time of, after the hurricane, and it was hard not to notice all the different artistic manifestations regarding the hurricane. And because I went through that hurricane, and it was such a heartbreaking moment, quite scary, and you know, a real tragedy. I kept thinking about how it was represented, and I think sometimes I even get offended by certain representations because they didn't feel that they were careful or caring enough. And what the screens or the fences and the viewfinders or viewers facilitate as I basically hide the image behind the fence, allow for a very intimate approach to the work. And when you get close to something, that is a voluntary thing to do. And I really like that idea that I'm also giving space, that you can get close, but you are really not obligated to get close. concrete wall serve as an inspiration for this work, for the project Screen House. So I think Screen House allowed me to branch out of the, I guess the methodology or the formula. No, I wouldn't say formula so much, but I say more like the procedure that I designed, that I made up, that I invented to create my project. I think I just needed a set of rules that make me feel that I'm not taking this particular decorative motifs and I'm manifesting them in a way that feel commercial, or that feel that I am doing that type of cultural appropriation. They come from the place that I grew up and where I live, but they exist everywhere. And because of their cultural significance, I thought that it was important to establish how they were going to be interacting in the world. And Screen House being a standing structure, it's not really connected to an existing piece of architecture. It's standing by itself. It's very much reacting to the environment. It's absorbing the environment and trying to, be tough out there, surrounded by all the concrete. And this structure that also have this shape that is very common in the working class homes of Puerto Rico. It was an opportunity to create something that kind of gave the idea of a house, and that it also houses others. And it was an opportunity to activate it with performances and different artistic forms. This was the first attempt of Screen House, and that was at the Arts Club of Chicago. This was very challenging, I have to say. This was at Museo del Barrio as part of La Trienal, and I had to respond to this particular wall that had these heaters and windows, and it was quite challenging. And I think I was enough experienced, but maybe I will do something different if I could do it again. This particular installation allowed me to bring back older work and also branch from the architectural components. These drawings are very much the way that I make sketches when I'm sketching a concept, an idea, and I start becoming more intentional about their shapes and thinking about the houses. And this was the beginning of Casa Isla, or House Island. And it was during pandemic, which the isolation was real, and it was I guess a unique experience for me, because at the time my mother also had mental illness, and one thing that she did was to stay inside the house. She wouldn't leave, she wouldn't go outside, she wouldn't go to the backyard. And the times that I visit her, I dedicated my whole time to be with her and kind of take care of her while I was there. And this is work that I did in her bedroom. This is a collaboration with my husband, Dan Sullivan. And if you can appreciate the different shapes, it's a game. The installation is pretending that we are at a house, inside a balcony. And these are the negative spaces of the fence that decorated the gallery. And this particular chair, the chair with the tiger, it was a chair I made in 2015 that was upholstered, of course, the monoblock style, and that was upholstered with beach towels. And I did a series of these beach towel chairs. They were very common in my household. My mother will stack them, just like in that picture, and cover them with trash bags. So that's her personal installation right there. I have Bad Bunny song in my head because of this work. Well, this one is called The Myth of Closure, and is mapping my journeys to and from Puerto Rico. My Puerto Rican journey consisted on landing at the home of my upbringing, the house that is in Cupey in San Juan area. And then I will travel to Dorado, Puerto Rico, where my mother had her new home. And most of the work in this installation was titled after these Puerto Rican counties, and the photographs were mapping these neighborhoods. And this is work, again, that I made in 2014, and I reintroduced to this newer work. I believe I don't hold on to a lot of older work, but these ones were special to me. I was very insistent about replicating this work, which is a diptych of a smiling face. It's inspired by the theater mask. I had this generic theater mask made in China hanging in my bedroom at home when I was a child, and I still have them. And I think I hold on to them thinking all the memories that they bring to me. But also I think the layers of this work I didn't really understand till much later on, and how sometimes you use laughter to cope, to mask, really, certain life experiences. And I think the excess of joy perhaps comes from that fear of facing, heartbreak. And also this work was very emotional. It was all this swelling, oversized hearts, were also allow me to explore how, as an artist, I can help or design a form of navigating the work, of providing an experience to the audience. So this particular work kind of convinced me of that we as artists can do that. We can provide these directions and experiences. Casa Isla was 30 feet away from people's sight. And the tree that it is housing was lended to me by the Chicago Botanic Garden. I asked them if they could lend me a tree that inhabit the house. And that was our exchange. And the tree was really sad. It was a bare, no leaves. But throughout the course of the exhibition, it bloomed. It was beautiful. And this work that happened in Saudi Arabia, the fabrication actually happened, everything happened there. I went and I saw it, and I was very pleased. This was actually my initial idea for the project that I wanted to do at the Chicago Botanic Garden. But the Botanic Gardens are not open at night. So I kept my idea, and a year later, this curator, Pedro Alonso, invited me to do this project, and I tell him, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And this is traffic paint that is embedded with like diamonds or crystals, and it kind of creates that glow. So it's impacted by the light, it's traffic paint. And this particular piece that is at well, not anymore. I think it moved to the Phoenix Museum now, but just a fragment of it. Not the whole house. But this one that was at the Carnegie is a new version or a recycled version of the work that was at the Chicago Botanic Garden. I like to repurpose things, especially if they are with me, because I'm very practical like that. I don't like to be so wasteful. So imagine being an artist and not being wasteful. It's a challenge. And this version, which was in exhibition last year at the Hyde Park Art Center, allowed me to tell the story of the 10 years of graft. So the way that I expressed such a thing, which was impossible because I don't possess the work of 10 years, I don't have it with me. It's all in parts or fragments and recycled, so it doesn't really, not all of it exists. I do, however, have scraps from most of the work, if not all the work that I've done, and I was able to make a representation of the 10 years by using fragments of each of the iterations. And I connected them and placed them in podiums because, as you can see, the gallery is such a white cube, and I think that formal aspects of the work, it was going to be complementary to the space. And this is an example of how a fragment of what was this installation is placed in the 10-year installation. And then in that fragment, I placed a photograph that was representative of that installation that the fragment was a part of. And this was also the first time that I handmade most of the stars that were decorating the structure. This is the work graphed at the Whitney Museum as part of the exhibition No Existe un Mundo Post-Huracán. Marcela Guerrero did a really outstanding job just helping me bring this work to life. It was a very generous space that I was granted, and it also allowed me to complement my images with pictures that were taken by a photojournalist from Puerto Rico. The Whitney Museum created literary component that was accessible through a QR code, and it gave credit to the contributors of the photographs that were embedded in the structure of graft. This picture was taken by Maria. I love this picture so much. And it's one of the few pictures that I have that have the audience experience and also the quality of the surface of the structure, which I think sometimes is very hard to capture. And became so interested in how people were documenting their experience. So it also became a part of my documentation. And this literary contribution, this particular one was designed by the Whitney Museum, and you can find it and you can read the material is on my website, which is my name, edrasoto.com. This was a solo exhibition at ICA San Diego at a very beautiful museum on top of a hill. And sadly, you cannot see the rest of the space with this particular work, but on top of these walls, there were windows that aligned to these fragments. And this is work or paintings that I made at a certain time during these 10 years, using fragments and scraps of my work. And I titled it Dos Cuerpos because this work came and I was able to express this on paper, on my studio, in the privacy of my studio. It was very messy. And I don't think I could replicate it. I don't think I could do it again. I believe I did a series of around 60 paintings. And they sort of came to me very fast. And I started thinking about communication and the lack of communication and how to build language with these abstract parts that were left behind. This bus shelter was exhibited at the Museum of Contemporary Art. It was curated by Carla Acevedo Yates, who's here today. Thank you for being here. And at a beautiful exhibition. I love this work, and I was so honored to have it in that exhibition. Also have a literary component. I like bus shelters. In Puerto Rico, they are quite ubiquitous as well, just like the fences and the screens and the breeze blocks. And they're even more particular and more improvised sometimes, and in relationship to expressing ideas of migration, of course, they're made for it. It's about the journey. And it's very common that you find models of these bus shelters that incorporate breeze blocks. This was the bus shelter that lives now in the south side of Chicago, in the home of the Floating Museum. It was a part of the Chicago Architecture Biennial. And it also have a literary component. And I thought I like to explain this particular picture. These are the graffiti names. They are terms of endearment to me, and that's how I title them, terms of endearment. When I think in my quest of trying to find that very authentic voice of who am I, and during my visit to Puerto Rico, I had this experience where I was at a hospital in a place called Manatee. I was kind of retired from everything, and my mother was going through all these exams, and she really wasn't in good shape, and we had these conversations with the doctors, and the doctors will use these diminutive terms, diminutive terms to describe things like medicinita, which is medicine, and on, really. And I was just, wow. It kind of just made me think about the ita and the little, the ita, ito, the term of endearment, and Yolandita, Ednita, and Lucecita were celebrities from Puerto Rico from the, I think they were from the 70s. they enjoy great success, and they're still very famous. Ednita, you can see billboards with her picture. She still looks 30. And wow, and Yolandita, my mom was a huge fan of these ladies, and I still have her LPs, her records with the music. And Cuquita was her name, my mother's name, how my father called her. And Ita, who many of you know, or the ones that know me, was her dog that then became my little savior. I'm still exploring this series of terms of endearment, because I'm fascinated with it. I'm wondering if this feels a little redundant. I'm being critical of my own work. But this one is very special to me because thinking about color, allowing color in my life is something that is symptomatic. I think of it as something that is very much related to allowing myself to be happy. So if I'm going to do a sculpture that is called the house, everybody's home, Casa de Todos, it needed to have some joy in it. And this work still is at Comfort Station and will be traveling sometime this year to Cleveland, to the Sculpture Center, because the Joyce Foundation was so generous. They gave us a really large grant that will allow us to bring this work to Cleveland and house artwork from the Cleveland communities, not only artists, but people that like to make art, self-taught artists, people that have been involved with the project. And we will also have the opportunity to create a concrete bus shelter in Cleveland, so that's very exciting as well. And I have a few pictures here because I love this project and all the different activations that it was such a massive group effort. And Jordan and Kitty, thank you. You hear me? I love them. They are amazing, and Comfort Station just deserves everything they want. I also included a little video of the last performance. The Seldums, I have collaborated with the Seldums in the past. They're amazing artists. They're just incredible, and they respond to the architecture, to art. So I've been so fortunate to collaborate. This is like the third time we work together. And Mr. Graft is at Central Park. So proud. I feel so proud. This is just unreal to me. If you know this location, the location of graft is at the Doris Friedman Plaza, which is a historic site. The Plaza Hotel is nearby. It's a very affluent neighborhood. And it does have a history of displacement that you can find on their website. There is disclosed. It's nothing hidden. It's something that is a part of the history. But as a part of that history, and the fact that most of the people that inhabit that plaza are immigrants that are working. They have their businesses at the plaza. And what this project gave me was the opportunity of make them visible through what the work means, which is dedicated to a monument, dedicated to working class communities. And it gives them a place to rest, a place to play. The tables that are, okay, so I didn't tell you, but how I designed this work was thinking about a house facade, knowing that it was going to directly face, there was going to be a front and a back, and they're both kind of identical. But from one side, you can see it as a house, and when people approach the seating area, it gives the illusion that the house is inhabited. And that was the intention of the design, the way that the work is designed. And like the fences, these tables were designed, also the design was inspired by a domino table that I saw at a county in Puerto Rico. And from that experience, I didn't put the year, can't remember what year this, but this was a collaboration with my husband, Dan Sullivan. We did the domino, and it ended at Hunter East Harlem, and then at the Perez Museum. And this picture is so beautiful. Like when we arrived to the gallery, this community, this Puerto Rican community that live in East Harlem, they took over the space and they were playing with the table. Just like the curator told me, she told me, you have to bring the table. Also feeling so fortunate that the Clemente became involved. The Clemente is a nonprofit organization from New York, and they have I believe it's a 3-year project that is called Historias, and it's building an archive of Latinos in New York. And they were so generous that they hosted 2 different domino games. I participated with this group of artists, and you can watch it online, the 2 episodes of our conversations. And I think I'm almost done. Do I have time for 5? Thank you. So the most recent work that I'm going to show you right now. It's titled Por la Señal, and Por la Señal means by a signal. And the title Por la Señal is a fragment of the common phrase that is used in the Catholic ritual, but I'm using it to refer to communication and also direction. I think about the inability of my mom to be able to speak, and I kept thinking about that fact, and how to communicate with her was, it required for me to be somewhat creative. And this work kind of helped me reclaim that past and that Catholic influence. And this is a, much personal work, and this first installation also incorporate a lot of color. And this is a version of very new work that I made at the color factory. Still exploring this work, but the motifs are all coming from the decorative patterns of the fences. And I believe this is the final work that I'm going to show you today. The exhibition was titled Lazos Terrenales, but these particular pillars are titled Entrelazados, and it's another architectural form that I've been allowed to explore through this project, and thinking about their height and their how they particularly relate to the body, and also a part of this exhibition and this is a larger version of the work Por la Señal, which is inspired by the tabernacle, which is one of these artifacts that live in the church that is also known as the place of dwelling. And I will end with the work that is currently at the Driehaus Museum as part of the exhibition Materialities. And it gave me the opportunity to place the work in a completely opposite way. And in fact, I chose this room of the house, which was very generous of the curator to allow artists to choose And I hope you go visit. I want to say thank you. Thank you to Jason Lee Isbarra, the president of the Art Institute, to Ana Martin, to Maria Gaspar, and to Andrea and Lily for having me here. Such a significant moment to come back to this place, which I have shared before. This is the place, the Art Institute, ignited my relationship with Chicago. And I met this guy. I met him there at the Art Institute. We've been together 20 what? I forget, honey. How many years? I also want to dedicate this to my family. I love my family. Thank you. That was like running a marathon that I was not prepared to run.
We have time for 1 or 2 questions. Please raise your hand and we'll get a microphone to you. Elizabeth.
So much of your work, hi, and thank you for your speech.
Where?
I'm here.
Hi,
okay.
how are you?
Doing well. So much of your work celebrates community, and you even talk about it through, the creation process. Everybody that's involved in these larger works kind of command, community, and even through curating the space of the works themselves being places where, community can be built. So my question is, what would you say to the community of observers that are kind of being welcomed in as a part of the art itself, as not part of those communities, but rather learning about them historically or in an artistic kind of way?
What will I say to them? Is that?
Yeah, maybe more specifically, where does the observer fit into the community? As
the
it goes
observer
back?
is a community. Yeah, I mean, it's hopefully it's for everybody. And, especially public artwork that is visited by, everybody, wider communities that visit that city. Of course, because I am an artist and I work with institutions and artistic partners and artistic communities. Those, like the Clemente, will be facilitating, a big portion of a community that is inclined or interested in being a part of the conversation that I'm proposing with the work. But then the way that people that don't know anything about the work comes in is so important to me, especially because the kind of work that I want to make, I want that work to have those qualities. I don't want the work to feel that it's exclusive of anything. I want the work to feel welcoming. I know that's hard to do. I don't have the perspective, maybe, because I'm a bit so outside of myself. Sometimes I feel, I think this is working, and I hope it is working. And sometimes I see at work, sometimes I see how people talk about it and receive it and they don't know anything about art, and that's very rewarding for me as an artist, the kind of artist I want to be.
I just wanted to share that I'm not an artist. I just happened to come across it, and so that's kind of where I'm coming from. And I was just interested what you might say to people like me who don't have any sort of connection and kind of found their way in here.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming and being here. Thank you.
We have time for one more. Elizabeth.
Hello, Edra.
Hola.
Hola, gracias de nuevo por compartir y ser tan vulnerable con nosotros.
Gracias.
I wanted to ask about the screen houses and the facades that you make, because coming as well from Puerto Rico and seeing the landscape of these beautiful ironwork and ornamental blocks that are kind of left behind and represent like a displacement of Puerto Ricans, and how you're able as an artist to recreate them and bring in life into different spaces, how you see yourself in that conversation.
I'm trying to understand the question.
Like from a landscape that has these structures and they're non-inhabited, and then bringing them to places like Central Park or in Chicago and Comfort Station that have so much life around them, how you feel like as an artist being able to facilitate that.
Okay, let me see if I understood, sorry, because sometimes it takes me time. So if I'm recreating motifs that come from an abandoned home, for example, yes. Is that?
Kind of like how they're abandoned in Puerto Rico, but
Yes.
you're bringing those
Yes,
motifs here
absolutely.
to activate them. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. That's, many times I do that because these are important houses. And I think the only way for people to understand that they have value is to show them that they have value. So taking them to in this context that they become celebrated, I think people will look back to what we have and how to appreciate what we have. You know, many times these motifs are replaced by very generic fences, and that are and that is sad. So also I feel that this work that I do, I feel that it also have that purpose of calling for the cultural relevance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Edra. Thank you, everybody.